Welcome to River of Suck podcast, episode 9. We're here at Rustic Roots Music and Food Retreat in the San Luis Valley in Colorado. So we're here sitting with Rustic Rootians. We've got a good crew here. What do they sound like? Who are you, Rustic Rootians? And today my guest is Ric Robertson.
Hello.
What's up, Ric? You're a mandolin player and a guitarist and a singer-songwriter and a fiddler and a multi-instrumentalist, keyboard player, drummer, producer,
Wow.
jammer,
Sure.
musician
All
of
of it.
deep love.
I like to make connections
amazing vibes.
between the things. Oh. Well, I am those things, but in addition, I am a rustic Rootian,
Yes.
which is a part of my identity, beginning with getting to know you, my friend, and then manifesting itself in being an instructor at the camp in 2000 and...
12 was the first year.
Wow. So I did 12, 13, 14,
It's a solid run.
and now it's 19. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, what does being a rustic Rootian mean to you?
Well, let's break it down. Rust.
Rust. Got to get that
You've been
iron
left
in.
out a little long, you know.
Yeah.
Rust does not necessarily lead to something functioning in its highest, slickest capability,
Sure.
but it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ick.
Ick.
Funk. Ick. Yuck.
Oh.
Love it. Ick. Rick.
Ick.
All right. What's next? Root. Earth. Roots. Gardens. Roots in music. Source.
Yeah.
Flame. Source of the flame. Center of the fire. Roots.
Yeah.
And
Where'd you come
shins. It's like, having your shorts on, getting those mosquito bites just so that you don't have to stop playing the last chorus of Swedish Walking Tune.
Yeah.
You sacrifice those shins. So there you have it.
Yeah, we've had some pretty interesting times at camp. When we first started, it was called a primitive music camp.
Right.
But we eventually found that rustic pointed to that element just fine.
Sure.
So we became a campfire jamming camp.
That's right.
It's been hard to convey how much time we spend eating and making unbelievable, life-changing food.
Right.
So now we call it a retreat.
Quality.
Yeah.
Quality of sensory experience, but out in the woods with instruments made of wood and with a drive to become closer to that source, whatever it is. Huh.
Yeah.
That's what I feel connected to here.
Yeah.
While you're getting closer to it, you're just indulging in the fine things.
Yeah. Ric Robertson. I would like to know what makes you your youest you, and how did you become the person you are today?
Wow. Well, okay, so let's start with how I found my way to make my living. Actually, this is a good time to check mark for me because my birthday is tonight at midnight. It's my 30th birthday.
Oh yeah.
That's an interesting thing as a musician. I've never had another job than playing music. I feel really lucky, and also to have been doing that since I was young, and also it's been a path that takes a lot of determination. But in its essence, that's the answer to your question, is playing music. That's
Yeah.
what makes me the most me, the meest me.
Yeah.
And what brought me here? It's music. It's what brought me everywhere. That's a whole, the biography or whatever, we could get into that. But where I'll start with now, where I've arrived and how I feel like myself every day is that I have a studio in my house. And so I've designed my basically dream world from when I was a kid. I just have all the recording gear I want, a drum kit, sweet guitars, mandolin, fiddles, live with a house full of musicians, live on Frenchman Street in New Orleans, play gigs with all these old school New Orleans musicians, all these young New Orleans musicians, travel to play bluegrass and gigs, all that stuff takes my entire life to manage. But I do it not because it's the most lucrative industry, clearly, but because it makes me able to be myself every day.
Yeah.
And I'm able to express these complex things about myself that I can only express through music or writing or producing records. And I think some other people that don't get to play music feel those things but can't express them. And so that's when it becomes a good thing to put out in the world, like food, like good food that we cook here, you know, bison sausage or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's just good. It's nice when you've hiked up to the Bat Caves and back down. You know, you need a good song and a good sausage. And
Yeah.
so
You sang mining songs at the old mine.
Yeah,
And
oh,
saw
yeah.
the most epic rainbow.
double. But
Double.
like more than
maybe
double.
like double and a half
Because
or
the
triple.
bottom had like an entire rainbow just of purple.
like a secondary half rainbow.
Yeah.
Extended spectrum.
Right. Flat 9.
Yeah, it's totally man, but I feel like the purple one is more like a natural 9.
Sure.
Well, like,
that's
but there's
you're
two-
entitled to that opinion.
Yeah.
The flat 9 was the rock dust in my eye from the jam.
Oh, that'll happen. Let's get into the River of Suck. We first heard about the River of Suck from John McGann, giant inspiration of both Rick and mine at
Truth.
Berklee College of Music.
Yes.
And I just remember him using the phrase River of Suck in our lessons to talk about how to get from where I was to where I needed to go.
Yeah.
In terms of like musical goals that he had for me that I should attain to and like learn from his unbelievable musicianship and
Right.
amazing personhood.
Right.
I'm super curious to hear if you can remember anything about what he said about the River of Suck in your lessons or
I don't know. I don't know if I have John's exact the analogy that he used
Yeah.
a lot with me early on, and I'll just use it even though this is segueing off a little bit.
Yeah.
Was about timing and the moving car on the highway.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
I talk about that with you?
Oh yeah, the driver's seat, the hood ornament, back seat
The trunk.
with the dead guy.
Yeah. Yeah. All that.
Yeah.
And the concept just being that if a car is moving, you can be sitting on the hood or sitting on the trunk and be moving the same speed. Different kinds of music ride in different parts of the car. That will change everything about the way that you're really. It helped me engage just with the stylistic intricacies of jazz versus old time versus bluegrass country, R&B, whatever, because they all, the metronome might be the same, but they all kind of congregate in a different place in the car.
Yeah, and the steering wheel is the metronome click.
Sure, yeah, okay. Or the engine. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Depends on the car.
Depends on the car. But break down the River of Suck.
Well, yeah.
How you remember John.
I remember him talking about it, and I started doing sessions that I called healthy musical attitudes. We have brains, and it's hard to like keep it together when you're experiencing feelings and trying to be a person and trying to be an artist, trying to have hobbies, trying to be like
Right.
a good family person and like do your job, and like that's a lot of things.
It's a lot.
Let's be a person. Yeah. I've been talking about it, and I can't remember how much of it is stuff that I've been thinking of since, inspired by John and like
Right.
what he originally said.
Right.
Here's how I think about the River of Suck.
Sure.
You're standing on one edge of the River of Suck. Behind you is your comfort cave.
Okay.
So you do all your things you already know how to do.
Yeah.
On the other side is future versions of yourself. You can do
Yeah.
the things you wish you could do now. You
Yeah.
can see them off in the distance. But in between you and the other side is this big raging river of whitewater rapids and rocks and thought piranhas.
Thought piranhas.
Which are those negative thoughts that just
Right.
pop into your head. And you're like, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
not useful.
Brain, stop sabotaging me.
Stop.
I'm trying to have fun here. Trying to just play music.
Give me a break.
The river represents the struggle. Last time I saw you, you couldn't play the fiddle.
Right.
But
Right.
I bet 5 years ago when you started playing it a lot.
Oh, I lived in the River of Suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being a multi-instrumental, that's my happy place.
Yeah.
I love a challenge.
The river of suck is the process.
Yeah. especially with learning singing. Those thought piranhas are real vicious.
Yeah.
Because that's your voice. Yeah. That's vulnerable, man.
Yeah.
And that's been probably the biggest challenge for me in my career as a musician.
I feel that.
And something to come to terms with. Like, I have records that, like the first record I made, you know, the Ric Robertson, the Boston Boys record when I was 18. Like, I think it's a cool record. It's not sung well. I'm just singing it. That's cool, you know, like it's taken a long time for me to be like, that's fine. That's just like learning anything else. But that's a harder one when you're that age and when you're really putting yourself out there. Like the voice, it's taken a lot of letting go. It's taken a lot of like real street gigging in New Orleans and other places. And Rustic roots, people like Chris Turner and Jerry Bryant. I remember having that sort of revelation at the early Rustic roots I was with, or certainly the first times playing with Chris, and watching how that man could let his voice of his body ring out the same way as the bagpipes. There was no difference. It was like he had as much thought going in his head as the bagpipe had going through its, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one with singing.
I want to talk about feelings. Do you ever experience having feelings?
Yes, I do, Andy.
What kind of feelings?
Sure do.
What kind of feelings do you have?
Huh? What are you asking there?
Well, so what I've experienced some pretty intense emotions recently.
Okay.
Like
So we're just talking about
all
in
kinds of
general.
good ones and bad ones, and I've come to realize that I can't control what I'm feeling, but I can control how I react in my actions in response.
Sure.
I feel like the more you can kind of self-reflect on your feelings, the more you can be a happy person and express yourself and be a better person to all the people around you.
Yeah.
Be a good rustic Rootian.
Yeah.
More specific feelings would be like fear,
Yeah.
regret,
Yeah.
hope,
Yeah.
optimism. Is that a feeling?
Yeah.
Happiness.
Yeah. Well, I think first off that, you know, they're not isolated and that they come together in little packages. So that to me is, you know, why I love a good song.
Yeah.
It's when you get a good package of them together. Yeah, I'm a very, very emotional person, Andy. Sensitive guy. And it can be your strength or it can be your detriment. And it can implode on you too if you don't use it. That happened to me, man. You know, but before the time I moved to New Orleans, I got kind of down and depressed for a few years. And I was in a relationship for a long time that was getting trickier, and there was repressed feelings and communication there. And I was in a band that was together forever, the Boston Boys, which then became the Rigs, the Rondo Rigs. Members came and gone. Half of us moved to New Orleans. Me and the girl I was with at the time moved to New Orleans. And then the band split up in 6 months. Me and this woman split up. I was in New Orleans alone. And the reason that throughout all that, I was having a lot of medical issues. I was at the time addressing through doctors, and sometimes that was necessary depending on the severity of it. But also with acupuncture or, you know, meditation, everything, dietary, and I just couldn't get to the root of it. And generally depressed, even though a lot of cool stuff was happening at that time too in my life, moving to New Orleans, being a part of it. But there was some kind of deep neglect of the actual emotions that were brewing up in me, and it was manifesting in my skin, manifesting in ways that were making other things in life like difficult. So the band broke up, the relationship fell apart, and that was hard. That was crazy. You know, that's like we were together 6.5 years, and the band that was my whole thing. And all of a sudden, I was down in New Orleans, like, alone. And it's how did you even get here? I had nothing to do but, like, write songs. I mean, that was it. And it wasn't always fun, even. It was just the only thing to keep me from being totally. And that is the first album I've ever loved that I've made.
Which
and
one?
It's called The Fool, the Friend. Ric Robertson. That's when I changed my name from Eric to Rick, dropped the E. I mean, part of that is symbolism. You know, part of that is about shedding something. That was what that was. And realizing, I mean, the main thing I realized when the band broke up and the relationship broke up is I needed to actually lean into myself a little bit and not depend on so many other things and like lean into those emotions. And the emotions became the most useful thing for a record that's really sad. It's really sad. It's still fun to listen to. You could dance to it, parts, and stuff. But it's like ultimately a lot of heart-wrenching songs.
Yeah.
I could play you one.
Yeah. Why don't you play this one?
Okay. But there's a lot of different emotions. I'll give you a good one. This one, it's a pun. Well, you'll get it. But that's how it started. It was kind of a joke. But this was like in the heat of the sadness, and it ends up being sort of a sad. But I guess it's sort of representative of maybe a way to bundle those emotions up, and then writing the song in that way kind of can be therapeutic.
Yeah.
The palmettos play cards in the corner. The roosters outside both sound drunk. It's 4 a.m, as I recall someone warning that New Orleans in the summertime is rough. Well, I knew it hit hard, but not this hard. A week and a half into June. Now the window won't open. The AC is broken, and I've got only one fan in the room. I've got only one fan spinning round on the ceiling, and it won't cool me down. It can't feel how I'm feeling, and it won't call me honey or tell me how funny I am at the end of the tune. Only one fan in the room. We came here as lovers and dreamers, with our whole life in the back of a truck. We made each other stronger, and we cheered each other on, and together we couldn't be touched. Well, I knew things got bad, but not that bad. And it all fell to pieces so soon. Now I don't mean to sound helpless, ungrateful, or selfish, but I've got only one fan in the room. I've got only one fan spinning round on the ceiling, and it won't cool me down. It can't feel what I'm feeling, and it won't call me honey or tell me how funny I am at the end of the tune. There's just only one fan up there. It's clicking and clacking and doing its best to keep me distracted, but my mind is defenseless, and her memory relentless as New Orleans in the middle of June. I've got only one fan in the room, but I used to have two.
Yeah.
There you go. So, that was a song. I was super sad when I wrote it. I was literally like in our apartment that we lived in the middle of the summer in New Orleans, hot. This fan like clacking.
Yeah.
I was like, only one fan. I was like, only one fan. That's kind of funny. But like heartbroken. And then just the act of having to put those puzzle pieces together and those rhymes and the chords was so therapeutic to get my mind off of the that I was in.
Yeah. you write a lot of words.
Yeah.
And they're great
and I
words.
Sing, and I know a lot of
and
songs.
You remember them.
I remember a lot of songs.
How do you remember them?
Good with lyrics. Well, I tend to not forget lyrics if they're good. Even though that sounds... I'm not saying that about my own stuff.
Sure.
But I am saying about my own stuff because I write a lot of lyrics that don't make it to the song. And if I can't remember it, then it's like probably not that good. And any good song or songwriter that I really... I spend time with the stuff, but at the same time, if a song makes sense, I remember it in a place of my brain that's not... Like once I start singing some old Hank Williams song, I'll know the words as they're coming out. Because that stuff is indestructible. It's the same as fiddle tunes, man.
Sure. I feel like it's way easier for me to memorize instrumental music than words.
That's way harder for me. But I guess, I don't know. I know a lot of fiddle tunes too. But
You know a lot of fiddle tunes.
Yeah. But good ones.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, totally.
That's the thing. It's like, if they're good.
So
it's a physical.
Yeah.
It's a physical memorization. Yeah. I learn a lot of songs too, and the more you learn, the easier it is to remember them.
Got to suck at something before you can be good at it.
Totally. I was doing 7 hours a day for 4 days a week on Bourbon Street, leading a band at a bar, and I don't like to be reading lyrics when I'm playing music. And I don't like to play the same songs every day either.
Yeah.
And I didn't play my music on those gigs. No way. My music's too important to me, So I used that to practice. And so instead of just learning a John Prine song or a Dylan song, I learned an album.
Yeah.
And just learn it all, memorize it all. Now I maybe know 2 of them from that record. Because, it's just the constant act of exercising that muscle maybe.
Yeah. Cedric, who was a recent guest here, Cedric Easton, he was talking about how sometimes fear might just be laziness. Like you're afraid of doing something because you haven't put in the time required to be able to be good at it.
Yeah. I think fear is useful for me. I get intimidated. I've always been intimidated in musical situations my whole life. And I run back to them because it's like the scariness is kind of...
Exciting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I try to get rid of that fear. Sometimes you have a whole gig and you can't play. And it's like, because you're not up to par with the musicians on the gig. It's going to happen if you're doing the right thing. If you're getting better at music, that should be happening if you're playing gigs.
Yeah. Playing music with people
sometimes you
better
got to
than
play
you.
a gig, it just sucks.
Yeah.
And go home and feel like, that sucked.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to translate that and be like,
yeah.
maybe my fear is just apathy. It's like, that's fear, and you feel like shit because you sounded bad.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I mean, I had this solo piano gig in New Orleans that was 3 days a week in a bar, and it was from noon to 3.
Whoa.
And sometimes from noon to 2, there was just nobody in there, not even the bartender. She would just be outside. I don't know. It was a fluke. I don't know how I got hooked up with this gig. I was on it for a few months. My buddy was managing the place. They paid me $100 a time. I walked to the gig. Talk about a godsend. Just me and a piano. But the second day, it's 3 hours by yourself. So if I go in the second day and I'm just kind of playing piano of songs I know, I felt terrible about it. Yeah. Constant, probably once a week. I would go home and be like, man, Dr. John, Professor Longhair, James Booker, me? Why am I sitting in New Orleans getting paid $100 to play piano? And so I learned Big Chief and Tipatina and, the shit that people developed on the piano when they were sitting alone in New Orleans, because it feels great when you're alone to do it. And it took months and months and months in practice.
Yeah.
But now I'm not the greatest piano in the world, but I have at least a foundation of okay, that's what that feels like. It's the same with my old-time fiddling. I'm not a qualified old-time fiddler in many regards, but I've sat with it enough to feel what feels good, to for me. And that's not going to be basic. And that just comes with the honesty with yourself. And I think that's fear-based, just to bring it back to what you're saying. I think that's why I kind of was talking about that. A lot of that is like fear of inadequacy. And you can define that for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's good that I'm in a bar playing a piano. That's better than somebody being in there.
You learn
with a
from
gun.
uncomfortable situations.
It's all relative. Right. But your own level of comfort, I mean, I guess that's up to everybody. I like uncomfortable situations maybe more than some other people and less than some other people.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not always discomfort that leads everybody to their next thing, but that's definitely how I interpret the river of suck.
Yeah.
Largely is that discomfort. I never think about it getting across the river. I think about it like when we're jamming and hanging out and sleeping and eating and let's say anything else.
Drinking?
Yeah, things that we like to do that aren't working.
Yeah.
Then you're on the shore. And then the rest of your time you just jump in the river of suck. And that's where the rest of life happens. And I think that's how I interpret it. Like life is a river of suck.
Yeah.
It kind of helps me come to peace with it, like, okay, there's like, whatever. There's horrendous going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we all have to jump in that river of suck, and it sucks. But at least at night we get to jump onto the shore into our comfort caves.
Sure.
I mean, there's joy in the river of suck, right?
Yeah.
the feeling.
Joy is everywhere in my life.
Right. I don't know. It's tough. I'm almost always in the river. I don't know. I've developed enough confidence, maybe, I guess, to not really care about sucking
in
front of people. I think that's why I love recording. Because in the recording studio, the river of suck is also.
That's the real honesty.
That's the river of the golden takes.
Yeah.
The takes are in the river of suck. They're not on the comfort shore.
Right.
If you want takes from the comfort shore, go make a record in Nashville.
Yeah. That's why we have home studios.
Yeah. That's where emotional perfection comes from.
Yeah.
Is that vulnerability. I guess that comes with different phases of musicians. I'm at a point now I'm really trying to be on the road doing my show every night. And at that point, you have to be on a microscopic level of river of suck where you're like, I know that I f***ed up ABC, but the show was still great. And you can't be hung up like, that was terrible. Because I know people like that. And it's like, get over yourself. We're bartenders. We're chefs. We're the same as everybody else when you're making music. I think a lot of the thought piranhas, people get caught up that like making music is a bigger deal than doing anything else. I think it can be liberating, It's like, even if you're playing in front of 1,500 people every night, that's just your job. And at the end of the day, if you feel like you messed something up, it's more important about the experience the people had.
Totally.
And if you are so zoomed in on yourself that you can't see what the bigger, if the bigger experience is getting off, then it's time to consider it. But
totally.
So I try never to leave the river too much.
Nice.
I guess you got to get good at dodging the piranhas.
Well, sometimes they bite you, and you have to keep swimming.
That's true. That's super true.
And you're like, ow. Okay.
Right.
Next thing.
Right.
Go to sleep. Try again later.
Well, and other things are happening. Other people, other body issues with yourself. All these other things can then come into your swim pattern.
Yeah.
How do you keep out?
Which stroke are you using?
Which stroke are you using?
What strategy are you using?
How fast are you swimming?
Does the current catch you? Send you around in circles?
You could sit on the shore for a few days in a row. Might be cool.
Soak up the sun.
Soak up the sun, man.
For us, cooking awesome food together is a comfort zone, in a way.
Yeah.
This is like our natural environment of stuff we love to do.
Well, that's what I would say. This is camp's a perfect example of that. Like, it's in the river of suck, but it's like, I don't know, low risk thought piranha. Suzanne?
Yeah. Try to be very welcoming and supportive.
Yeah.
Like actively encouraging people to suck on purpose to learn things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about the fear on gigs. When you're on a gig and you're messing up, I mean, there's hardly space to like process.
And the band leader knows.
Oh yeah, and you might not even know the band. Like in New Orleans, I might have got called for the gig. I don't
Yeah.
know anybody in the band.
Band leader hears everything, and he's the guy who hired you.
Yeah, and if it's someone you respect and you know they're not feeling it, it's like it's hard to have the space to process that feeling, you know.
Sure.
But I think over the years, having a lot of teachers that were pretty harsh, I think, which I'm grateful for now.
Yeah.
Like John.
Would you? Yeah, you'd say he was pretty
John
harsh. He was
McGann.
very honest.
He was honest.
Yeah.
He was also my friend, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I respected everything he told me, but, like, he wasn't afraid to be like, dude, like, you know, what are you doing? That sounds stupid. Or, like, you know, you don't know the tune or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
He knew what I could do. And Glacier was the same way. Matt Glacier was the same way. You know, another one, actually, one of the harshest I had at Berkeley was Livingston Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Did you take his class?
I did. He would shred people
I saw
apart
he
on
made somebody
stage.
cry every day.
Yeah.
every class somebody left crying.
Oh, man. It was the best.
It was the best. This is James Taylor's older brother.
Yeah.
So he knows what it takes, you know? He's not going to beat around the bush.
He's like, you'll be my competition later.
The class was right. Right. At a certain point, there is truth to that.
Yeah.
There's like only so many gigs, man.
You want my gigs? I can show you the path.
It's
Are
like,
you really going to do
if
it?
that's useful
Yeah.
for you to get better, I think a lot of my favorite musicians, that was a very big part of how they got as good as they got. Almost all of them.
Yeah.
That was a huge part of it, was the struggle to work.
Yeah. And just like having a growth mindset when you're working, I think is what you're talking about a little bit.
Yeah.
Like every time I play a gig, I'm learning. I've been in this jam band, Whitewater Ramble.
Yeah.
I call it jam band boot camp.
Yeah.
For fiddlers.
Yeah.
Because just have to really bring a story to the solos and
You
get
do.
out of the way of the song and like.
Or else you'll go crazy if you're
Yeah.
not getting better. That's how your brain's designed. That's
Right.
how mine's designed too. We'll implode.
Yeah.
We have to be working on something that's like, there is no stasis. You're either moving toward or away from something.
Yeah.
And so,
And if you dig deep, then you have to dig deeper.
right,
Go to the next level.
absolutely,
Find the psychedelic level 17 if you can.
it only goes deeper.
When the music feels transcendent.
Yeah,
Something that I believe we get at this camp that I'm stoked to jam with y'all around the campfires tonight.
yeah. Which is again that conversation though
Yeah.
about music being your work. For
Yeah.
me, first question you asked me is like, what makes me me?
Yeah.
Where my you is the you of the universe, whatever you said.
Yeah.
and the first I was like,
Sure.
well, that's my job.
Yeah.
And that puts me in a different position than a lot of people. And music plays a different role in all kinds of different people's lives. So that's sort of the angle I'm speaking at it from when I talk about those things like fear and work and needing to work and the musicians that I'm aspiring to be like, you know, Ray Charles and John Prine and Bill Monroe and, you know, Joni Mitchell and whatever, these titans of music
Yeah.
and craft. You know, I put them on a pedestal, but I also don't because I'm only a musician. So like, it's not something I do when I come home from my other job, and it never has been. And that makes it that provides an intensity that for me has kept me going 30 years doing it. But that's
sure.
only one angle of what music is, and Rustic Roots is a whole different thing at different hours. And I think what makes it the most unique music camp, in my experience of the 3 years I've been here before and even now, is the ability to have a nucleus and these different sort of tribal natural layers where people can engage in different levels. Oops.
And we're hoping that the Rootians discover their own version of the themist versions of themselves.
Absolutely.
Your youest you.
We had a guitar class this morning where Brian was showing me some really complex jazz harmony, and our other student,
Hadar.
she learned an E chord,
Yeah.
and everybody left with something. That's going to make their engagement with music richer in their life, which is good for everything. It's good for people around you. It's good for your brain. Music's good, I think.
Oh, yeah. We've got a little environmental music.
We have an environmental hazard.
It's okay. It doesn't sound that bad. It sounds like music
Sounds good.
in a way.
Cool.
Does anyone
Anybody got a question for Ricky?
got a question? Anyone want to sit in the hot seat?
I'll do that. Yes.
Cool. Got Linz Moran coming up here.
Would you give us one practice strategy, either a technical one or an emotional, psychological, something you use when you're working with a new, anything you want to learn?
Yeah. I sort of mentioned this earlier with how I've designed my home to be this sort of dream fantasy land. And I think this is like, I have a very romantic relationship with practicing. That's part of the reason I always switch instruments. Is because I just have to like love whatever, it just has to feel right. have to be in the mood. Okay, so like I'll give you an example, like piano. As soon as I decided I wanted to learn Tipatina, the right hand, and while you play that in the right hand, in the left hand you go, that's one bar of music. It took me 3 days. But it never got boring because to me, if I have a metronome on and I'm playing that polyrhythm on piano, it was like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm doing that, even though it's one bar. Which for somebody else is like, I can't think about it like, I went to Berkeley, I didn't go for piano, why am I doing this? There's no room for that. Mm-hmm. But it happens all the time. That's all the time, every day, with everything. But you have to just keep, if you love it, again, that's my psychological strategy. It's like, and as soon as I don't love it anymore, take a break or whatever. That hasn't kept me from like working hard.
Right.
I'm just like, if someone's to look at my day, I look like a crazy person. Because I'm like, whatever. You know, I'm like, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with hearing the same crazy thing over and over. You just have to accept if you're an artist, you're a little bit crazy person. Isolated, but that helps me feel more like a normal person. So, you know.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linz. Anybody else got a question for Ric Robertson?
Hi, I'm Alice Gould. I'm at Rustic Rootian.
Yeah.
How you doing? So my question is, how do you like manage all your instruments? Like you have so many. How do you practice and have time and actually work on them? And you know, you have a life too. So how do you use your life too?
Well, it's gone through phases, and I would put that even into years of my life. I'm a firm believer that staying warm on any one instrument or any one thing in life, like reading books, cooking food, stretching, if you can expand your mind to relate those things, I think they all really do feed each other. Like, I think when I practice drums, I'm getting better at piano. When I practice mandolin, I'm getting better at fiddle. It's like, as long as you don't get hung up. And then, again, hours, just put in the hours. But if you're really putting in the time and you're loose in your body, you're loose in your mind, you can play as many instruments as you want, and you'll probably get better at each one.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Testify.
Goat interlude.
Goat interlude.
So you got a new record coming out,
I do.
but no release date?
No release date yet. It will be announced soon. We're figuring that out. My first record, The Fool of the Friend, is out on Spotify and iTunes. My second one, 11 songs. We'll figure out how those will be released. But yeah, new music's coming. Getting ready to start working on the third. So
Sweet. We're gonna listen to a song now.
yeah.
Tell us about this song.
So this is a song that straight after Rustic Roots, I'll be in New Orleans working on filming a music video for this song called Louisiana Love Thing. And
Nice.
playing piano and guitar on the track. Roll it.
girl of my dreams. Louisiana love thing, sweeter than a choir singing, the sweetest thing I know. Grinning and swimming in the rhythm of my daiquiri queen. Louisiana love thing, wherever she's hanging, that's where I call home. I never fit into the grip of something hipper before. Louisiana love thing shines like a diamond ring. You she can rock and roll, and you believe me when you see me in the middle of the floor with my Louisiana love thing. Wherever she's hanging, that's where I call home. Never mind the cocaine, the reefer and the whiskey too. Nothing's gonna settle my brain the way that a kissing do. I take a train to California, take a rocket to the moon with my Louisiana love thing. Wherever she's hanging, that's where you find me. Love is for the making. We can't make nothing else. When those hips start shaking, I just can't help myself. Everything I ever wanted, nothing that I've ever known in that Louisiana love thing. Wherever she's hanging, that's where you'll find me. Wherever she's going, I'm following close behind her. Louisiana love thing, love
If we want to buy some of your music or listen to it, where can we find it?
You can be directed to everything at Ric Robertson Music. That's Rick with no K. RICROBERTSON music.com.
So if you enjoy what you're listening to, you can support us by joining the River of Suck swim team for as little as $1 a month.
Holy crap.
That's right.
That's
We've
a
got
deal.
some swim team members here. Let's hear it. Yeah.
What else are you going to do with that $1?
Well, you're going to get extended interviews. You're going to get full high quality downloads of all the music that we played. You can go download the Earth String Band recording with Eric and I. You're going to get so much music, so many interviews.
Sounds incredible.
Because there's things that were magical that were said. You didn't just hear them in the edited episode. So you have to dig deeper to get them. I want to thank you guys, the Rustic Rootians, for being here for a live podcast recording.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you, Ric Robertson.
Thank you, Andy Reiner.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
No one ever said swimming across the River of Suck would be easy.
And nobody said you had to do it alone.
That's right. So here we are. My name is Andy Reiner.
And my name is Ric Robertson.
Till next time, keep swimming.
River suck. Down the river suck. On down, swimming on down.
River. Oh,
Suck. Swimming down the river. Yeah, you better swim fast. Thought piranha. Gonna bite your ass.
Bite your ass.
River suck.
Learn more about Rustic Roots Music and Food Retreat in Colorado at rusticroots.net. Next year's dates are August 18 to 24, 2020. Join us for campfire jamming, farm-to-table food, music workshops, and a week of comfortably living outside with new friends. 13,000-foot mountains tower over the valley as we join together for life-affirming and life-changing experiences. If you are a musician or you just appreciate being around campfire music and you love food, meet us in Colorado for the 10th annual Rustic Roots Retreat in 2020.